I do want to start with Harvey Elliott. Now, I hadn't really had eyes on Harvey's time at Villa so far. I'm aware via osmosis that it's not really gone great for him. I hadn't realised just quite how badly it's gone until I started to dig into this today. He's played with 97 minutes of Premier League football. He hasn't been in the squad since the 19th of October. He hasn't actually played, therefore, since September for them. He's only played 4 minutes of football in the Europa League. He needs to play apparently 10 games to activate the transfer. That he's on 6, therefore, so far. It's wild how this has gone. I mean, it was the Europa League stuff that really shocked me. I get it. If the manager doesn't think you are right for the first team, cool. But yeah, he's not even being rotated in those kind of environments. Yeah,
I mean, the issue is like you say, once he gets to 10 games, which we believe is the trigger point for Aston Villa to make this deal permanent, then they've got to pay £35 million for him. And, you know, Villa have already got PSR issues that they're trying to sort of work within. Well documented, and at the moment they're absolutely flying, aren't they? So, you know, they've got Morgan Rogers, who is one of the outstanding players in the division at the moment for me. You know, Emi Buendia, who's had a real sort of renaissance there as well, and Ross Barkley has played at times. So essentially, you know, why would they commit to spending £35 million on an attacking midfielder when he's not in the plans? You know, particularly when you're trying to balance the books. So he's been a little bit unfortunate there, really. You know, he moved there obviously on deadline day, which is obviously fraught with potential problems anyway when you sort of, you know, expedite the deal on deadline day, particularly when Villa were really linked across the course of the summer. I know West Ham were interested, and I don't think Harvey was particularly keen on moving there. RB Leipzig, of course, but Villa sort of came out of nowhere late on. So it's one of those deals. I think it was driven by Monchi, the sporting director, excuse me, who leaves about 2 or 3 weeks after Harvey signs for Villa. So yeah, it's all the sort of stars have aligned for it to be a bit of an unhappy time there for Harvey, and it hasn't worked out at all so far.
It's interesting because there's a little talk that like Lucas Paqueta was the top sort of target for that, which hadn't panned out, and therefore they kind of left needing a body. And it's funny because I think you can see some parallels with maybe like someone like Federico Chiesa at Liverpool, who I think was done as I thought at the time as an opportunistic type of signing.
Yeah.
You know, Harvey Elliott's been a star for the under-21s. You know, in fact, he received an award I think this week recognising his role in the under-21s team over the summer. You know, he's apparently been in the Aston Villa Christmas advert. You know, his career is sort of, his life is ticking along, his career is ticking along, but yeah, the manager just clearly doesn't fancy him, and it feels like he's become a little bit of a transfer pawn because if you're right, and you are right, you know, PSR issues, the manager's probably looking at it and going, well, what could I spend that £35 million on instead? And it just does have that feeling right now to not even include him in the squad, you know, for so many games does make this feel almost a sort of political move from Emery more than anything else.
Yeah, there is an element to that. And I just think, you know, Villa haven't really got the wriggle room to give him another 4 appearances and then they have to pay £35 million. So did he want to commit to a player who they're not 100% sold on, you know, particularly when they do have the financial issues to be wary of.
But so it's a £35 million as well that doesn't actually improve any area of their team because, as you say, they're flying, and Elliott's not even getting on the pitch. So they'd be paying £35 million for nothing, effectively.
Yeah, they'd pretty much be giving it away, wouldn't they? So it's tough. It's and obviously the fact that Harvey played against Newcastle for Liverpool in August means that he can't play for another club because he's already represented 2. So he's trapped in the system a little bit now until the end of the season at the very, very least. So, you know, there's been talk of him potentially returning to Liverpool. I'm not sure how much appetite there is at Liverpool for that to happen. You know, Arne got asked about Harvey a week or 2 ago now, and I think he you know, in a roundabout way, just said it's a Villa issue. It's you know, something to put to Unai Emery, not to me. So I think he's still got a brilliantly, you know, big future ahead of him. He's still only 22. He's not 23 until April, but I think for the short term, certainly the second half of the season, it might just have to be one where he just gets his head down and just accepts that, you know, at the end of the season is going to be when his next move comes. It's
crazy, isn't it? Because you're right, and it's almost hard because I think how Liverpool and Liverpool's fan base are processing it is, I think Liverpool are seeing this as a permanent deal done.
Yeah.
Whereas it feels like Liverpool, you know, we're looking at the he's on loan element of it and thinking, well, you know, could Liverpool bring him back? And in any other circumstance, if it were a loan, I think Liverpool would have him back in January, I think, in a heartbeat. But do you think that's almost the difficulty there? Is there's probably not maybe the pathway into many more minutes for Liverpool anyway? Because if there was, they'd have probably convinced him to stay around for another season.
Yeah. I mean, you look at last season before Liverpool had, you know, Florian Wirtz and, you know, whoever else you want to name, really, Ekitike and Isak, obviously, clearly different types of players, but they spent big on reconfiguring their attack in the summer, didn't they? And Harvey couldn't really get a look in last season in any position, really. Obviously, plays wide on the right occasionally in the cup games when Salah isn't there, but, you know, Liverpool's problems this season have been dealing with physical teams who look to, you know, launch long throws into the box, who look to pick up second balls, and Harvey Elliott, for all his qualities, probably not going to help too much with that, is he? So, yeah, it's tough for him, really. And it just can't really certainly can't see him staying past the end of the season at Villa. Then, you know, what's the future hold for him then? He returns to Liverpool next summer, and then he's in the shop window again, maybe. It's just been a really tough year for him.
At this point, it's only technically 4 more appearances. You wonder whether he'll almost... It would take a lot of work from Villa, I think, almost not to play him that many times, you know, because still a lot of season to go. You're probably looking at something to... the wheels to fall off in some regard at Villa for him to be considered an option. As I said, if it's £35 million, that's a first 11 player you're looking at for Villa there, and if he's not being considered for that, it's just sad for me, and it's a shame because, I mean, again, from your reading and from what you're saying for Slot, it just doesn't look like there is any exit strategy back to Liverpool during this season.
It does seem that way. I think you're right. You know, when he did move, I think Liverpool were viewing that as a permanent deal, and, you know, move on and wish him well, and, you know, good luck at Villa. The only reason perhaps maybe it wasn't completed permanently was because it happened late. You know, it happens on sort of middle of the afternoon on transfer deadline day, and, you know, we don't know how long these sorts of things take, but maybe it is quicker to arrange a loan deal with a view to make permanent as opposed to completing a permanent one there and then. Maybe Villa didn't have the £35 million to spend there and then. You're not too sure, but I think to all intents and purposes, Liverpool have been looking at Harvey Elliott as though he has moved on. So, you know, if he does return at the end of this season, you know, in the sort of close season, I think it will be with a view to finding another club.
Real shame for Harvey, really. Obviously we can't know things may well change, and it's another situation where, you know, if Liverpool were to suffer an injury crisis of their own, there might be some sort of conversation there. But I guess it's one of those, if a player's seen as, again, surplus to Liverpool's requirements, all it will be is kicking it down the line another 6 months before they get to the summer, and they're looking and can they arrange a deal anywhere close to that 35 million? So, I wonder whether Liverpool's money men, in combination with Arne Slot, have had a little bit of a come to an agreement on this one, really.
That was a clip from Journo Insight. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.